The Jam Jam was born out of the culture of black people. Yeah. Black people move out to Africa.
Everybody knows there was slavery in the Caribbean, right? Brought all African enslaved across, and they had all of these rules and laws and regulations. So within the French colonies, there's Article 16 of the Code Noir. The Code Noir is basically a whole set of rules to deal with the African enslaved, things they could and could not do. So within Article 16, the African enslaved could not gather in large groups. You can't sing, you can't dance, you cannot play musical instruments, and especially the drum. They didn't like the drum at all. So within the English colonies, they had certain things like what they would do. They didn't necessarily exercise the Code Noir, but what they did is that they would charge the slave owner for allowing their slaves to sing or dance. Sometimes if you convert into today's money, it's like 10,000 pounds. Right? So they were charged heavily to allow their slaves to sing or dance because they felt like if they gathered up in groups, they're gonna start a riot. And especially when they saw when they would be drumming, how the Africans would be dancing, and it looked aggressive to them. To me, what it was is that they felt the power of our dance and our song and our rhythm and all of that, and I think it was scary to them. So like, you know what, let's not let them get hype, all right? Because once they get hype, they're just gonna go and mash up everything. Even if you look at how a lot of the slave rebellions, how they communicated was through the drum. That's why all of these things were banned. When the Europeans did the Lent celebration, which is before Lent, where you had to abstain from everything for 40 days and 40 nights. You'd have a night where you'd rock out and drink and do all your thing, whatever. That's what Carnival is. It's like a day or like a couple of days of just doing all the things that you're not going to be able to do for the next 40 days. When slavery was abolished, the enslaved were like, yo, we're gonna be broken out and shocking out. And one of the things that they did is like, you know, the word jamet, right? So jamet comes from the word diameter in French, diamet, right? So basically, if you are jamet, you are behaving below the diameter of class. So the jamet culture came and it was like, yeah, we're going to go on the road and we're going to offend all of y'all. You want to look at us now? So the dances within the European eyes, which were very extrovert and vulgar and all of that, the liberated Africans, they decided to broke out and shock out even more. Because it's like, yo, you can't do nothing now. So it was even more expressive to show that you cannot oppress us anymore. You've oppressed us for so long, we're going to go over the top now. So the dancing, when you look at some of the passages of how the Europeans wrote about when they saw carnival happening, how vulgar it is and how awful, and they were not wearing any clothes and you're close to being naked, and they were so horrified. But they wanted to horrify them because it's like, you held us back for so long, we're going to offend you in every single way possible. So all of this is what carnival is. It's like a big, massive protest. Dirty Mask, through my research, I found out two things. One of the things that the slave masters used to do for their masquerade balls was make fun of the slaves. They dress like slaves and do this thing, cambrule, right? So they dress like slaves and act like they're running down to the cane fields when it's on fire, because the enslaved had to go down. If the cane field caught fire, they had to go down and try and salvage everything really, really quickly, okay? So they used to make fun of that. So the enslaved used to start making fun of the Europeans, making fun of them, okay? So when slavery was abolished, the enslaved went down to the cane field and they just covered themselves in molasses. Like the same molasses they had to be toiling over for all of these centuries. They like, burn everybody, we're free, do what the hell we want. And they covered themselves with molasses, they lit torches, and they started this procession. And one of the things about covering themselves with the molasses meant that you couldn't figure out who they were. So the slave master couldn't come and be like, yo, I saw you doing this and this. And like, yo, prove it what? Because everyone looks exactly the same because they're covered in the molasses. As it started to progress, they wanted to make themselves look even more black, right? It's about offending them even more. You say I'm black, well, look me, I'm real black today, right? And covering themselves with the chains and having the whips, all of that is in reference to slavery. So, and then there's the story of the Jab Molasses, which is the spirit of a slave that fell into a vat of the boiling sugar. So that's a homage to that. All of these things are references to our history. When you look at Jab, there's Jab, Grenada, then there's Trinidad Jab, right? Which is the whip masters. Have you ever seen that? And it's even that because it's mostly people of Indian descent who do that. And then they have the whips. But you're saying like the whip is braided in an Igbo style, so that's Nigeria. And it's like they're supposed to abstain from alcohol and sex for like weeks before carnival and on carnival. They're not allowed to wine on any women. They bathe themselves in a special like bath the night before, and it's like they have to whip each other before going on the road to see if you're strong enough to take lash when you get on the road. And I'm like, yo, this is like these are things that like you don't know. I didn't know. There's so much effort and love and spirituality and history in carnival, and then the Pretty Mask is more looking at how our African masquerade, European masquerade, and also Indian masquerade when the indentured laborers came across from India, and combine all of that. People just got more creative in telling stories and so on. So that's like the history, like a mini nutshell.
Financially, socially, economically, whatever it is, mentally, when a Caribbean island has carnival, the whole island goes towards it. Everything, the man on the street, the bus driver, everything is working towards carnival. Whereas here in London, it's only a few people. It's not, Sadiq Khan isn't gonna say, hey, yeah, we gotta,
I grew up in Pan. I mean, like I said, since I was 8 years old. My memory in Pan and what keeps me involved in Pan, I think, is that when I was about 9 and my father found out that I was going to play Pan. I mean, that, you know, in them days, that was licks. You used to get licks for that, because things. So I know I used to have to wait till he go to sleep and climb out the window. And I think that was one of the challenges or one of the things that I remember, and I still have a laugh about that today.
Oh, some of the most amazing designers I've ever met in my life build these costumes that are giant spectacles of moments in time that it's timeless. Some of those pieces you'll never see anywhere else in the world. It is the most original and unique thing to Trinidad. And even though when you look at Brazil and you see the floats and the samba drum, yes, it's well made, it's extremely intricate, it's beautifully presented. But there's a sameness to what's coming out. You expect the big float, you expect the samba queen, you expect, you know, there's a particular routine in how it goes, and a dance routine that follows, which is all very beautiful, and that is their culture. Ours is, the design it's amazing. It's unique, and the materials they use, the sizing of it, the thought process that went behind the design, all of it. When you see the king itself with the queen and you stand next to it and the scale is just massive, and you think one person has to work out the engineering, how you're going to carry this, what frame you're building, how is this all going to sort of set up, and then a lot of them have moving parts, like, it's just insane. It's so insane. But that, I feel, is one of the best things about our culture, like that particular thing, which is only unique to Trinidad. That's amazing.
We used to go to like the Carnival Splash, which used to be called the Carnival Gala many years ago. Now that's showing my age. Basically, it was just a show over 2 days. Children's Day would be on a Saturday, and then the adults will be on a Sunday, and it's just all the mass bands that are taking part in Carnival would be showcasing their costumes with models on the stage dancing, and basically it's just to give everyone the eyes view of what is actually going to be on the road for Carnival, for Notting Hill. I think it's well missed, personally. I really, really miss it, because one, it was like a day out that you look forward to. 2, you get to see all the mass bands under one roof. 3, you get to meet and mingle with different people, get to know different people. Oh, you're from that band and blah, blah, blah. 4, you get to catch up with people you haven't seen for years, you know? So it was just that one place, and it was a family event. So you could bring the children along as well, and, you know, you got the children dancing, because then you hear like all the latest music. So it was just that one place that you go to, and you remember certain songs, and you remember certain costumes. And I remember seeing all these beautiful flamboyant costumes from like Masquerade 2000 as an example, and Mahogany, and all these big bands. Like, I used to really admire seeing that, because they're costumes you would not really see on the road sometimes, because they're so big.
I mean, when we were younger, we carried costumes that were like the size of like God knows what, but we were performers. Like, my mum would literally be in the front room on a Saturday morning. She would clear the coffee table, put on the track of what he was going to play, and be like, let me see where my money's going to. Like, let's perform. Play your marks, let's see. And it would be so important. But like, on that gala day, when you heard all the announcements and you like found out that he was winning first place, like, it was amazing to me. It was something that I loved, like, absolutely loved. So, like, those are my biggest achievements, and we've done that. 1 year with South Connections, I think it was like 2000 or 99, we had like this full, our theme was flight. So every single section had different birds. And when I mean, like, we hand cut and paper mache'd out all those different feathers onto like these different things. But it told like a full story of like all the different birds and where they came from. And then when you got to like the final like adult king, it was like this 40-foot structure of a black and like teal raven that had a sunball in his mouth that was like a complete like totem pole, and it had like 4 wings, and it was epic. Like, it was absolutely epic. Like, when we went to gala, I remember, because our like Adult King went on stage and all the lights were blacked out, and then they put the lights on and it was just shining, and I remember just being like, we are gonna win! Like, it was just the best thing ever, like, honestly.
Well, that's what Ebony is all about. I mean, we started off, when Ebony's first started, it was older guys. It was just guys who came from Trinidad who wanted to carry on playing band. I got involved like the rest of us at that time, back in the 60s, when we used to go to the Cologne pub down in Earl's Court. And we used to come up to Ladbroke Grove after the Cologne because we came up to Mrs. Laslett is bringing out the kids. You know, it was the first opportunity we had to see steel band and like a carnival type thing on the road, on Portobello Road. I think that was my first involvement in it. Funny enough, one of the best times I had in carnival was the riots were taking place in '69. Because we never stopped moving. You know, we were on the road right through. We came down Ladbroke Grove through burning cars and, you know, police with riot shields and stuff. But we were still having fun, so I really enjoyed that night.
Commander Fairburn arrived to a complete breakdown of law and order. Mayhem on this scale hadn't been witnessed that century, and proved just how many in the community felt alienated by the police.
Burning vehicles, rioters, policemen withdrawing. It was frightening to a certain extent. It was unnerving, and it was very sad.
You could say the pioneers of carnival. It's got to start with them because they've paved the way for what it is today. Anyone from band leaders of your Mahoganies or your Masquerade 2000s, you know, the people that I've like admired from years and years, from Carnival Splash, you know, those people. Because, you know, to me, when I see those bands, maybe not so much now, but back then it was just like, you know, like it's carnival.
Ebony's going through, I think, its 5th generation. So now a lot of the young people are friends of Ebony, families of Ebony. It's children who's come up, who's grown up in Ebony because their parents was involved in Ebony, either through the mast or the pan. So we have a long history of family ties within Ebony. We started from a very small band up in Acton. Actually, we started in the back of one of the original founders, a guy named Cape James, in the back of his house in his garden shed. And when we moved from there to really form Ebony Steel Band.
We started this band back in 2005 when I came here and I went to Carnival for the first time, and I went off and I started trying to learn how to make costumes, and that's how we started. We started off as Fun Mass, which is not like a full-on not the sort of costume that you see today, but a very simplified form of what I thought would work in London, which was a lot more coverage and a lot more clothes. Slowly that idea disappeared because people are actually quite willing to embrace the culture and what it's turned into. So here we are today.
What made me actually get really deep into the carnival itself was we lived on the carnival route. To enter into carnival, the trucks had to pass our house. So we used to have like chocolate, everyone, different bands basically just setting up. So in the mornings, me and my brother, what we used to do, we was young at the time, before we actually, before we got to DJ on trucks, we used to ride around carnival to listen to sound systems. Growing up in the sound, obviously my dad being a DJ, that's how I kind of fell in love with the whole sound system and the whole thing with the music. And then obviously linking that to carnival, you know, the trucks with the big systems, hearing it kind of made me say, yo, we're going. It just, you know, it was good.
Growing up in the Caribbean, I'm very conflicted by the whole sound system culture because I'm not used to that. I'm not used to going to carnival and being in a static space. No, the carnival is movement to me. So the sound system culture has never resonated with me. Although I could understand it to a degree. Sometimes I've taken a pass through, I'm like, okay, I get it. They asked me, I was an ambassador for Carnival this year. And it's like, you have to, I feel like conflicted because I want it to grow. But then at the same time, as I said before, I'm very protective of it. It's like, I fear that, like this year, there's so many people. They said, like, the police came into our band and they said, we're overwhelmed. They've never had this many people in the history of the festival. So, to a point that we had to get on the truck, and I just saw this sea of people, there's thousands and thousands of people. And I felt like, y'all are here and y'all don't even know why you're here.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we've lost so many old mass bands. And some have been like down to like change of the times. Like some of them haven't changed enough or changed too quick. But some have not passed that down to their masqueraders. A lot of, if you look at like most of the mass bands now, they're run by most of the youth that were maybe in mass or maybe not. But the whole idea of what mass is not coming from those leaders anymore. The complete tradition of like having a theme, the theme resonating within your costumes, like you'd look at it and be like, boom, that is like this, or that is representing this. I think like now, I find it a little bit sad sometimes when you just see costumes and you just don't even know what it is. It's just, it's pretty, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful to look at, but you really don't know what actually resonates. There's not a full theme that you think like, this is telling a story. Like
the major challenge in Carnival is getting funds for it. That's the biggest major challenge. Every year it's a bigger challenge because every year the funding disappears. It's harder to raise money. Sponsorship is very, very, very difficult to get. So, yeah, that's the biggest challenge in Carnival.
Like, I just like hearing just like how rebellious we are. I don't think we realize as a people how rebellious we are. We really are, you know. We really are. Like, everything we do is like, it is a response. And we're very reactionary. People like to think that we're very passive, but I think is that we protest in different ways. In a way, you can say Carnival is a march. So them same kind of marches you see down in Parliament, this is how we march. It's just in a different way. But I think we are actually very rebellious people. So these things inspire me because I'm like, yo, this is like so cool, you know? So, yeah.
Okay, so my first one would be Grenada.
Trinidad.
Notting Hill Carnival to me is the best carnival.
At the minute as it stands, St. Lucia.
Spice Mass.
I absolutely love Trinidad Carnival. It's just a different world.
The thing I love most is probably Dirty Mass.
So sometimes when we say we don't know how important Caribbean people are, well, where does it start and where does it end? You know, were we stolen from Africa, from India, from wherever we brought here? You know, London play a major role in taking West Indians out here and, you know, doing things. But I think the most important thing is, who are we today? Who are we today? We are a people who live side by side, sharing each other's culture, and the culture colliding on itself right now. And it happening in a little genre of music called soca.